the dispossession, the expunging of an entire people from their land in 1948. Stolen, and this regime, the Israeli Zionist state, has never ceased carrying out its project of ethnic cleansing. And as I said, that's expunging a people, a culture, and carrying out massacres of the order that we've seen. Now, Killing Gaza, is an incredible portrait. I want to say a little bit about the film because there's some background that's needed. It's an incredible portrait, of a people, the Palestinian people, who've been subjected to this unrelenting genocidal siege. Now, the filmmakers who did this, Max Blumenthal and Dan Cohn, started making this film in 2014, the summer of 2014, and they filmed it during and in the aftermath of the 51-day siege, invasion of Gaza by the Zionist Israeli state. And they released this film just on Tuesday of this week, which marks the 70th anniversary of what's called the Nakba, and that is the forcible removal of more than 750,000 Palestinians from their native land, removed by terror, by paramilitary forces. And the release of this film also coincides with the opening of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem, which is nothing less than a giant fuck you by U.S. imperialism to the people of Palestine and Gaza. Gaza has historically been part of the Palestinian homeland. In 1948, 1949, after the massacre and uprooting of the dispossession of the Palestinian people, Gaza was transferred over as part of an agreement between Israel and Egypt to Egypt, and it became a concentration point and concentration camp for Palestinian refugees. That was in 1948. In 1967, Israel waged a war to occupy more of historic Palestine and took over Gaza and enforced these concentration camp conditions on a much higher level. In 2005, Israel withdrew from Gaza, but exerted effective control over that region. In 2007, when Hamas became elected as the governing authority of Gaza, Israel and Egypt, but Israel principally, imposed this cruel and heartless blockade, an economic, social, and total blockade. What does that mean? Medical supplies were denied people in Gaza. It meant people couldn't move in and out of Gaza. And let me say, when you look at the conditions imposed on Gaza, it is worse than the Warsaw Ghetto as it was constructed by the Nazis. So people can't leave, medical supplies are denied, and there is a state of terror that is imposed on people. Now, there is 60% unemployment in Gaza. At least 50% of the population lives in extreme dire poverty. And this is the state of affairs. And here is a very important fact. None of this would be possible without the material support, guidance, and diplomatic cover given by U.S. imperialism. Let me share one basic statistic with you. Israel is the largest single recipient of U.S. military and economic aid since the end of World War II. In fact, 1/3 of all U.S. military and economic aid dispersed since World War II has gone to Israel. That's 1/3. And what is Israel's population in the world? It is 1/1000th of the world's population. Think about that. When you watch this film and you see the devastating and horrific consequences of the F-16 fighter jets that are carrying out their missions, when you see the effects of the advanced weaponry, the assault weaponry in the tanks, that is U.S. imperialism that is doing its work, and that is Israel, which is serving the larger strategic interests of U.S. imperialism. It is an enforcer of the interests of empire, both in the Middle East and globally. And that is why there is no hue and cry in the West and in the media and among the politicians over these conditions, who will always lament the violation of human rights as they define it, where they see it, when it serves the interests of U.S. imperialism. So what we're going to do now is we're going to watch this film, and then we'll have some discussion afterward. It's a long film, I have to tell people, but it's an important film. This film breaks an information blockade. They have imposed a blockade on Gaza, and they have also imposed a blockade on the truth of the conditions, the horrific conditions of life of the Palestinian people in Gaza. And this film, thanks to Max Blumenthal and Dan Cohn, enables some people here at this bookstore, and we can spread this among others, to actually witness the reality of this. We're going to watch this film, and then we will have some discussion after. People can stay, you can see how many are going to be here. We'll talk about it. We're going to start with a 90-second trailer that the filmmakers put together. Now, normally a trailer just contains excerpts from the film, but they've actually included something in this trailer about news coverage that is extremely relevant to the moment we're in. You know, I was watching, I think it was Vice TV, and someone involved in an NGO made this point. He said, there are many complex moral questions and issues in the world, but Gaza is not one of them. And what we've witnessed here in this film, you know, is a documentation of genocide, the systematic undermining of the conditions of life of a people, the attempt to annihilate a people. And the documentation gives you information about, what were they called? Bunker busters, F-16 assault jets, right? 2 bullets per every man, woman, and child in Gaza. This is genocide, and you know what? It's made in America. And we here in the belly of the beast have a responsibility to protest the massacre that took place this week. And by the way, at the end of the film, remember when you see people storming towards the border? Well, that was in 2014, but that's what happened on Monday, you know, with many, many more people. And that's the response of the Zionist state, to mow them down. So we have a responsibility here in the belly of the beast to act, to protest these massacres. And I did want to inform people that tomorrow at 3 p.m. in Times Square, there's going to be an event, a demonstration, and I would encourage everyone to come out. And you can also talk with people from Refuse Fascism here. They might raise their hands, and they can let you know of other activities that will be taking place.